Give you something to remember for the rest of your life.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Mask of the Slasher. This week we're going to be talking about a classic movie that is very controversial, and that is I Spit on Your Grave. Now, I didn't watch this movie until maybe about 5 years ago, I think.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever seen it either, actually.
Yeah. The reason I didn't see it is because, once again, stupid name.
Yeah.
You know, it was stupid. It just sounded so corny, and I was just like, whatever. But it was one of those situations, you know, the COVIDs were around. We had nothing else to do.
Right.
Why not? Let's see what the big hype is about this. Now, I'm not going to say that I love this movie. The subject matter is obviously not something you're just like, oh, this is amazing.
Right,
you know,
right.
I mean, if you do think that, then there's a problem with you. We did Rosemary's Baby. We did a comparison between Longlegs and Silence of the Lambs. And then it became a little more obvious that this was becoming a theme. And it just wasn't intentional. It just happened.
Yeah.
So we decided to do I Spit on Your Grave to kind of close out this theme, because it's not the happiest thing.
Right.
I was going to do I Spit on Your Grave anyway, because it's a summer movie, in my opinion.
It is a summer movie for sure.
But, you know, we're going to finish it out.
Yeah.
I'm doing this being Dunskies. So to make it interesting, I thought, why don't we do a comparison of the original 1978 movie to the remake from 2010? Now, other people have done this too. I'm aware.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit. I just don't care. I wanted to do it in my own manner because it's just how it goes, you know. So I'm going to give you some of the facts of the original movie, and then we can discuss the comparisons in it.
Okay.
There is a documentary that I watched about it on YouTube. We just happened to come across it. Was it YouTube or Tubi? One of the two. I don't know. We found. I will put it in the description so you guys can watch it. But it was interviews with the director and who's left of the actors and a couple other people. And what I found out was that this was based on a true story. The director and his friend and the director's daughter were just driving somewhere to go play tennis for the day, which was a daily thing. This happened to be in an area where there's a lot of trees and foresty kind of area. And this woman came out of the forest covered in mud and blood and completely naked. And they took her to the police department, and the police essentially didn't believe that she was attacked in any way. I don't know who would just throw themselves through a forest of mud and blood and, and you know, I mean, it's just kind of stupid. The director was inspired by his accounts of this whole situation. And it's an unfortunate story, obviously, but obviously it was something that needed to be told. Because it was such a horrible thing to witness, and even just the girl itself and the police station, the whole thing, bad news. So he wrote the story. It was originally called The Day of the Woman.
Right. Also not a great title.
Not a great title. Yeah, because it doesn't even, what are you honestly going to call it, though? It's really kind of hard to.
True.
I mean, something like Revenge of a Woman, I don't know. Scent of a Woman, I don't know. Anyway, Jesus Christ, so stupid. Anyway, are you good?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thanks. When he put this movie together, he had a very hard time selling it to the studios and getting it distributed, doing anything with it. But eventually, it was almost like, I think they said a year or two of fighting to get it into something. And then they finally did. And then, of course, it was, there was a big blow up over it because people automatically thought that this was a film that was encouraging rape when it was completely the opposite.
Right.
Now, granted, he didn't really pass on that message very well within the movie, except for the fact that she did get her revenge.
Right.
But so I can kind of understand both parts of it. And like I said, this back in the 70s, people had a different way of thinking back then. They weren't as open-minded as we are now, which still pretty close-minded out there, folks. But, it was pretty bad back then. So obviously with the situation with the police department, that right there says it all.
Yeah.
So they finally get it into theaters, and then Roger and Ebert cover it.
Right.
and to shit all over it like they keep doing. I don't think either one are alive now.
No, they're not. Have they ever liked a horror movie? Did they ever
don't
like
know.
a single horror movie?
I don't know. I've never
I don't
looked
think
it up.
they did.
I would imagine Silence of the Lambs was probably one of them, maybe.
And Roger Ebert, let's just talk about Roger Ebert for a second.
Okay.
He has no room to talk because he was involved in the making of that horrible movie Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, if you've ever seen that piece of shit.
There you go. There you go, yeah. Yeah, it's like the blind leading the blind right there.
I think that's probably the only movie he was ever involved in. And it was, I don't know if anybody's ever seen it. I guess it's a cult classic, but it's actually hot garbage, so.
Yeah, so ultimately it got pulled from theaters really quickly and just hurt everything.
Right.
But conveniently around that time was when VHS was coming out and movie rental stores. Kids, back in the day, we could not own every bit of movies that we wanted to own. We couldn't see everything in the theater we wanted to see. We sure as shit didn't have streaming. You had to go to video stores.
Yeah.
And you had to hope to God that somebody else didn't get that one copy of something, you know. If you thought ahead, you called and put it on hold.
Some of us even had to rent the VCR as well.
I thankfully didn't. Because we were cool, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't
much
know.
cooler than we were.
I never rented the VCR.
Oh, it took us forever to get a VCR.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
I don't know.
Your mom worked at Sears.
Hey, man, I don't know.
Denise.
Just saying, when we first started renting movies, we were renting the VCR as well.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
anyway,
right?
I always thought it was when like I'd go to Blockbuster and they had the thing of them, and I'm like, somebody has to carry this big suitcase home, and it just reminded me of like the poor kids in like band who had to carry home their tubas.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a bitch. And then Roger and Ebert went on to Oprah, and had an interview, and they discussed the worst movie that they have ever seen in their life, and ultimately it just boosted the sales and movie rentals. And made it a cult classic.
Yeah. See, back then, any publicity was good publicity.
Yes.
Nowadays, you just get canceled. But back then, bad publicity was actually could do you a favor.
Yeah, exactly. Back in the day, if Kojira had played the Olympics, and all we had was newspapers, you know, even if somebody shit on it, everybody would be like, "Who's Kojira? Let's find out what's going on with her." Nowadays, we just think they're satanic.
Well, stupid people think they're satanic.
Yeah, they're not satanic, folks. Learn some history.
Yeah.
Anyway, so it was ultimately their doing as to why it ended up with better sales. Now, obviously, this thing did not blow up.
Right.
It is, you know, within the horror community, it's not like people are like, hey, you know, let's just go pick up this movie for the family. It's not in Redbox.
Right.
You know, it's you know.
It's a cult classic.
It is a cult classic. It's definitely just horror fan situation, in my opinion. So, like I said, we watched the remake as well, though, and this was made in 2010. Now, I really don't like remakes.
Yeah.
Really, really, really don't like them. I can't even think right now off the top of my head of one that I was just like, that was so much better. Can you?
Well, I wouldn't say it was better, but I really like the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Oh, okay. Well, see.
I wouldn't say it was better, though. I would just say I enjoy it.
Okay. So it's still not better, though, than the classic. It's never going to beat the classic.
Well, yeah, nothing's going to ever beat George
Just
Romero.
like this.
All right. Oh, that's definitely.
Yeah. So we watched this. It's on Tubi if you want to waste your time. At least you don't have to pay for it. I'm gonna kind of do some cliff notes of the original.
Yeah.
And we can compare the new, so then you can understand what the story is. If you've never seen it, you know, if there's spoilers, I don't really care.
Yeah.
It's
Spoiler
still
alert.
incredibly shocking, even if you know the entire story.
Right.
But a girl who is a writer, she goes to a cabin by herself so she can clear her mind and do some amazing
Write
writing.
the great American novel.
Yes. And she gets there. Now, keep in mind, once again, 70s. She gets to town and she gets lost because, you know, we didn't have GPS.
Right.
And she stops at a goddamn gas station. Gas stations are the devil.
That's in horror movies. They sure are.
Oh my God. I was like, of course there's a gas station. So she stops there to get directions. Well, of course, there's the creepers at the gas station, as there always is. I was surprised nobody was playing a banjo.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. So she gets directions, and then bro's trying to pick up on her. It was just, you know, it was gross and creepy. So she goes to the cabin, great guns. She gets out of her car and unloads her shit, and then it's just like, oh my God, the lake is so amazing. Let me go out and swim naked.
Yeah.
in the lake, in the place I just came to and know nobody around.
Yeah.
After I just talked to the creepers
Yeah,
at the
right,
gas
yeah.
station.
So there's creepy rednecks skulking around,
Yeah.
and you think it's a good idea to go run around outside naked.
Yes. Now, I just want to say I'm not victim blaming.
Right.
I love those keywords today.
Right.
But duh.
Just common sense, folks.
It really is. People are going to see your parts.
Yeah.
They're going to want to be inside and around your parts.
Exactly. They're going to be touching your parts.
Yeah.
All up in your parts.
All up in your parts.
You don't want that.
But also, let's just point out the fact that crotch crickets.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Who wants shit flying up? They're cooter.
Exactly. Swimsuits were made for a reason, folks.
Yes, to stop crotch crickets.
That's right. And whatever else.
Yeah. Oh, God. Could you...
Nope, I'm good. I don't like swimming in lakes as it is. Even with a swimsuit, I don't.
No.
Don't,
It's slimy.
I don't swim in lakes.
It's gross. I've done it. I don't
Yeah.
like it. So yeah, she goes and does her thing, and then she's all floating out on this little stupid boat thing, and
Right.
just cooter to the world. The whole thing. It was bad news. It was a dumb idea. So
Terrible
anyway,
idea.
so she does that, and then slowly but surely she finds out that the guy that works at the grocery store, he's mentally disabled in some way.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't know, and it doesn't matter. But he was mentally disabled, and so he's kind of like, he's nervous around her. Oh, it's a pretty girl. Thankfully, she had clothes on at this point.
Yeah, she didn't go to the grocery store naked,
Thank
so that was
God.
a relief.
Oh, my God. She'd be like, I need a loaf,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
I need this cucumber. I've got some time on my hands. So, sorry. Hot dogs.
Yeah.
Kielbasa. So, eventually, of course, the inevitable happens.
Right.
The town creeps come,
Yeah.
and they rape her.
Yeah.
And I am not... The rape scene, of course, is incredibly touchy.
Oh yeah.
Anybody who's ever gone through this experience or close to this experience, as I have, you know that it's not a joking matter
Yeah. No,
at
it
all.
definitely could trigger somebody, I think.
Yes, you don't want to
Yeah,
watch
it's very,
this if you've gone through it.
Yeah.
I don't recommend it. She gets raped in the forest, and it's incredibly graphic. It's not some quick thing. Very drawn out, very long scenes, and it was something that the director decided to hold a shot of her naked on the rock to really just drive it home as to what it was.
Yeah.
Not that we couldn't figure that out, but whatever. After the rape and all that, I mean, she is tore up from the floor up.
Oh yeah.
I think where it really drives it home how horrible it is when she gets in the bathtub and she's just bleeding.
Yeah.
And you don't quite know where it's coming from, but
Right.
you do because she was unfortunately sodomized.
Right.
Well, they think that they killed her
Right.
at one point, and they're like, why haven't we seen anything or heard anything? And they're having a very loud conversation in a very small diner about it, and nobody else is
Right.
picking up on this in any way. I'm like, why would you have this conversation? Go back to the gas station.
Yeah. Exactly.
So gross. So anyway, so they sent the mentally handicapped guy, of course, back to the house to see what gives, and she's there.
Yeah.
And kind of lures them in, you
Yep.
know, and she kills them all. We'll
Yeah.
just go with that. We don't
Yeah.
need to tell you anymore. I mean, that's probably the best part of this movie.
Oh, by far, yeah.
Is the revenge
Yeah.
and the graphic killing scenes.
Yep. Yeah.
I'm
Oh,
a
yeah.
big fan of those. I cheer them on every time I've
Yeah.
watched this, which I think is maybe 3 times tops.
Oh yeah, and spoiler alert: when she cuts the dude's dick off in the bathtub, dear God, that is so.
Amazing.
Oh God, if you're a dude, I mean, he totally deserved it in
Yeah.
every way, but still, you're just like, oh God,
Yeah, it's
you know, it's
and a dick floating in the
brutal.
water.
Yeah,
It's-
brutal.
yeah. I mean, you know, Deep Purple could have written a song, you know, Dick on the Water.
Dick on the water and balls in the sky.
Jesus. It's great. It's a great song.
I know.
If you need anybody to write a jingle or a song for you, Josh is available. Okay, so 2010 remake. I really thought, you know, this is pretty easy to just copy and paste.
Right.
No, they essentially just made a movie of their own.
Well, I mean, the jumping off point was there, but they tried to put their own spin on it.
Yes,
I think tried
that's
to
what I'm saying.
modernize it a little bit.
They didn't have to change it as much as they did, though.
Right.
So, same situation where she's new, you know, she's going to write some amazing thing.
Yeah.
But it is, you know, in 2010. So, she's got her laptop, and she's got a whole case of wine,
Yeah.
which later bites her in the ass.
Yeah.
I mean, it was going to either way.
Right.
But it didn't help her
Yeah.
situation. So,
And she's smoking the reefer.
she smoked, yeah, the stickiest of the icky, I'm sure. So, assholes
Yeah.
come to the house.
Yep.
And it wasn't, I mean, they still got the mentally handicapped guy once again. Still got him laid.
Right.
That was a little more graphic than the original, in
Yeah,
my opinion.
yeah,
That was very detailed.
Yeah.
But then there was just harassment.
Right.
Like making her give a blowjob to the gun.
Right.
And just belittling her is mostly what it was, and scaring the shit out of her.
Right.
Okay, so that makes sense. Got it. Great. But it took away from the story of the mentally handicapped guy, in my opinion.
Right.
And the point of that between the two movies was the fact that it doesn't matter your mental capacities. He still knew it was wrong in either movie. Still knew it was wrong, and he still went through with it because of peer pressure.
Right.
So, I mean, that's why he gets killed in either movie. It doesn't matter because, it's horrible either way, but he knew better.
Yeah.
He definitely did. After she gets attacked, she runs and happens to run into the sheriff and the creepy guy from the auto shop or whatever that was. Oh, no, he was he was the landlord or whatever for the Airbnb.
Yeah.
I'm sure it wasn't the Airbnb back then, but you know what we're saying. So anyway, they're out hunting squirrels, of all things. Banjos is all I'm saying. And she's, of course, relieved. Oh, good, the sheriff. Well, the sheriff's a dick.
Yep.
And he brings her back to the cabin and is like, oh, I'm going to come in here and tell these boys to piss off. And, of course, they're not there. And so then the sheriff, that's when he starts using the, whining against her and the weed and all that stuff. And then he decides, let's rape her.
Yeah.
And that's where they decided to bring the sodomy back into it. They didn't with the hillbillies.
Right.
But they did with him because he said, I'm a ass man or something like that. I'm like, well, you're an ass clown is what you are, not an ass man. So anyway, things don't go well.
Right.
She decides to get away from them, and she jumps into the river and never resurfaces. Well, of course she's not dead because the movie would have been over with. And so they start to notice something's not right, and one by one they get lured in.
Right.
Once again. So, but this time, there was some more personal stuff brought into this. Like the sheriff's daughter, who was just a little girl, and his pregnant wife, who I just read earlier that she actually wasn't pregnant in the original script, but because the actress was pregnant, they wrote it in. I was like, it worked.
It did work for the movie.
Yeah. So, they get lured in and they get killed.
Yeah, and the kills are much more convoluted. Like
they're very creative.
Oh yeah.
The dipping the guy's head in the bathtub full of lye.
Yeah.
That's pretty gross.
Yeah,
if you've never read what lye can do to you, go read it. It's also used for food too, though, which is weird. Just, I think it's like
small amounts can be
very, very small, but it's like pretzels.
Oh yeah.
It's like weird shit. So anyway, and then there was, I think the best one though was the sheriff and the shotgun.
Oh yeah.
That was just fantastic. But
shotgun up the ass.
Yeah, he had it shoved way up there. It was great. But I think the one that was the grossest to me was the guy tied up to the tree.
Oh yeah, with his
the
eyeballs.
hooks in his eyes.
With his eyelids hooked open. Yeah.
Even when I was looking at photos to use for this video, I was like, nope, I can't even look at it. It's so gross. So now that we've gone through all of that, one thing that shocked me when I was doing my research is that I found that somebody said somewhere in a review, because I would not click on it and give them that satisfaction, that they said the rape scene was not long enough.
Jesus.
And I will say, I'm not saying that it wasn't long enough. I don't give a shit about that.
Right.
Obviously, don't need it. But the rape scene in the newer movie was not as long and as graphic. The thing with the sheriff was pretty graphic.
Right.
But as far as the other guys, it wasn't as bad as the original movie. But to think that a rape scene needs to be longer to entertain you, there is something wrong with you.
Agreed. Yes.
And you need to seek help.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. I don't care if anybody's offended by that, if anybody turns off the video after this, go seek help.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or castrate yourself. One of the two.
Yeah.
She could have done it.
Yeah.
She did do it again. They have to have a dick cutting off
Right,
scene.
right.
I'm pretty sure there's one in the other ones too. Why they continue to make these is beyond me. There was one even made in 2019 that was called Deja Vu. And I'm like, oh God, so stupid. Get your own ideas,
we don't
bros.
need
No,
we didn't need more than one to begin with.
No, we really didn't need it. The differences in this, aside from the actual rape scene itself, was of course the storylines were slightly different. In the original movie, of course, they were far more simplified. You know, the guy just working at the grocery store and bros working at the gas station,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Yeah.
But this time around, they had to throw in the cop.
Yeah.
What did you think in the differences?
The differences, I mean, mainly it's just like parts of the storyline, you know. I mean, like in the newer one, you know, the one guy is filming everything, and that tape kind of becomes the catalyst for her kind of playing mind games with them and turning them against each other and stuff like that. So, I mean, they did try to throw a little bit of a modern spin on it with that, I think, you know, and some of the things. But yeah, the newer one, I mean, it really kind of tried to be its own thing. Like the kills felt kind of a little more like slashery almost, you know, and stuff like that. And it's like, it really didn't need to be. It should have, you know, they should have kept it more down and dirty like the original one was, because revenge is not like, it's not that convoluted. It's down and dirty.
Yeah,
you know? It's like
exactly. Well, and you know, I think with that, it's that what we talk about all the time, where everybody nowadays wants everything explained to them. They want backstories. They want, you know, more detail and whatever. The original movie, the reason it was so shocking was because there was so much left out of it. We didn't know what was going to happen. There was no predictability of it. The second one, there was that stupid shed. You knew that was going to come into play at some point, and it was like they put that in way too early. They didn't even need to put that in. They could have just had the shed later on and be like, "Yep, there it is." So anyway, I think that that's what ended up happening with this. And I mean, it was back 2010. It was a long time ago. But it was like the start of everybody needing everything explained to them.
Yeah. Tried to put their own spin on it, but not enough of their own spin on it. Because to me, it was just like, it's definitely one of those where it doesn't stand on its own. It's one of those where it's like, well, why wouldn't I just go watch the original, you know?
Yeah, because, I mean, it could stand on its own. If we didn't even know about the original, it would be on its own, and it's a stupid movie.
Right.
It was an unnecessary movie. The only reason it was ever remade was because of what it came from.
Yeah.
And they knew how shocking it was originally and all the controversy behind it. So, you know.
Yeah.
But I do still incredibly enjoy all of the revenge scenes in this. I mean, they had it coming to them.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
You know, but I thought it was a little lame that she was just hiding out in some weirdo cabin somewhere. I don't know. I think the original one, they didn't... She was just hiding, but they didn't explain where or how. And so that was kind of cool. But that house had a basement, so, you know, creepy things can happen there.
Right.
You know? But this one, they had to have a story as to where she was. And it had to be some weird Blair Witch cabin somewhere, you know. And it just wasn't... I don't know. It wasn't good.
Yeah, the kills I thought were cool, some of them, but yeah, otherwise it just felt totally unnecessary. You know what I mean?
As a whole, and I'm sure
you could have put those things in a totally different movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, you could have made your own revenge movie and not dragged this one through the mud. Like I said in the beginning of this movie the original was very controversial. A lot of people felt like it was just egging on rapists and things like that. And I mean, I don't think rapists need help.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to do
and
this
I don't
stuff
think
either
it's
way.
I don't think it's encouraging it if you see that that's what's coming to you if you do it. You know what I mean? I don't see how that's like encouraging you to do that if you're going to get your dick cut off. You know what I mean?
And I really feel like it actually was empowering the woman. You know, it kind of felt, you know how like Quentin Tarantino, he always changes how the history of something actually happened.
Yeah.
Like with Django and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, you know.
Inglourious Basterds.
And Inglourious Basterds. So we're going to cover that one for sure. He made it to where this is what we would want to have happen. So I feel like that's what the director was doing. Like after he encountered that whole situation, he was like, this is what should have really happened. Yeah. This is what I would have wanted to happen if I was in that situation, you know. And so I think that that's cool. You know, and the fact that a man actually felt enough to want to write this movie and wake somebody up and go, this is not okay. Right. This is absolutely
Especially
not okay.
back then.
Especially back then. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
And that's why he had a hard time getting it picked up and everything else because nobody wanted to touch that. Didn't want to bring light to the subject matter in any way. We didn't want to offend anybody with this. Right. Like I said, it is an important subject matter. And the fact that we had 2 other videos about sexism, this kind of just rounds it out. Like, if you fuck with us, we're going to murder you.
There you go.
That's all there is to it. We're going to cut your dick off.
Yeah.
I don't know. The guy that tried to get me, I almost slit his throat.
There you go.
So there you go. If you want to see another movie that is like this, we recommend Thriller.
Yes. And we did a video on it, so you should go
a
watch
video.
that episode.
Yes, because it was one of our most watched videos. It's, a Swedish exploitation movie, but this is ultimately what happens to her, is that she gets captured, drugged, raped repeatedly,
Yeah.
and she gets her revenge in the most amazing way possible.
Yes.
So go her,
Yeah.
Anyway, I think that's it. Next week, I don't know what we're doing. I don't even know what the date is next
It's anybody's
week.
guess.
I know we've got a couple new movies that we're going to go see, and we will cover those. But
Yeah.
other than that, I don't know. We just kind of fly by the seat of our
We
pants.
do.
We would like
Spontaneity.
a lighter subject matter.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye.